You are not watching the news when it happens. You are scrolling through your phone, brewing coffee, or sitting in traffic with the radio playing something forgettable. The sky is ordinary, the air is still, and then, without warning, the horizon ignites. Not with fire, but with light so intense it erases shadows, erases thought, erases the version of you that existed 1 second ago. Your pupils constrict violently. For half a breath, your brain refuses to process what your eyes are reporting. This is not sunrise. This is not lightning. This is something your biology has no reference for. And in that frozen moment of confusion, the clock starts. The first 10 seconds are already burning away. The blast wave is traveling toward you faster than sound itself, faster than your ability to understand what is happening. And whether you live or die in the next 24 hours depends entirely on what you do right now, in this moment, before your thoughts catch up to reality. The flash is not the explosion. It is the warning. A thermonuclear detonation releases energy in the form of light before the shockwave forms, before the fireball expands, before the air itself is ripped apart. That light reaches you instantly. The blast wave does not. You have seconds, maybe 5, maybe 10, depending on how far you are from ground zero. And in those seconds, your body must move faster than your fear. Drop. Do not look toward the light. Do not stand at the window trying to understand what you are seeing. Do not reach for your phone to film it. Drop flat, face down, arms covering your head and neck. Keep your mouth slightly open. This is not theater. If you are indoors near windows, turn away and get low. Glass will become shrapnel. If you are outdoors, you have one objective. Get inside the nearest building with thick walls. Not your car, not a tree, not a doorway, concrete, brick, earth. These are the only things between you and lethal thermal radiation. The heat pulse follows the flash within a fraction of a second. It ignites clothing. It sears exposed skin. It sets fire to anything flammable within line of sight. You do not feel pain immediately because your nerve endings are overwhelmed. You feel pressure. You feel wrongness. And then the shockwave arrives. The sound is not a boom. It is a physical force that strikes you like a wall of compressed air moving faster than a commercial jet. Windows explode inward. Car alarms scream across entire city blocks. The ground shakes. Dust and debris fill the air. They stand up. They look around. They try to assess the damage. But the blast is only phase 1. Secondary fires are igniting, and the most dangerous part has not even begun yet. Because above the blast site, a column of superheated air is rising into the atmosphere, dragging millions of tons of vaporized material with it. Soil, concrete, metal, glass, everything within the fireball's reach is pulverized into microscopic particles and lifted into the sky. And what goes up must come down. Within 15 to 30 minutes, depending on wind speed and altitude, radioactive fallout begins to descend. It looks like ash. It drifts like snow. It settles on rooftops, on cars, on skin, and it kills without sound, without visible injury, without mercy. Most people will die from fallout exposure in the hours and days that follow. The instinct to run is overwhelming. Your adrenaline is screaming at you to get as far away as possible. But distance from the blast site does not equal safety. Fallout patterns follow the wind. A plume can stretch for hundreds of miles downwind, depositing lethal doses of radiation in areas that were never touched by the explosion itself. If you are indoors when the blast occurs, you stay indoors. If you are outdoors, you get indoors immediately, and you do not leave. This is not negotiable. The rule is simple. Time, distance, shielding. Time means waiting. Radiation intensity drops rapidly in the first 24 hours. By hour 7, it may be 1/10 of its initial strength. By hour 48, 1/100th. Distance means putting as much space as possible between you and the fallout particles. But in the first hours, distance is impossible to achieve safely. Roads will be clogged. Bridges may be destroyed. Panic will be universal. Shielding means mass. Dense material blocks gamma radiation. A basement is ideal. If no basement exists, move to the center of the building, away from exterior walls and windows. Stack furniture. Fill containers with water and place them around you. Use books, clothing, anything heavy. Every inch of material between you and the outside air reduces your exposure. You will want to check on loved ones. You will want to know what is happening. You will want to move. Do not. The first 6 hours are the most dangerous. Fallout is descending. Radiation levels are peaking. Emergency services are non-existent. Hospitals are overwhelmed or destroyed. If you leave your shelter now, you are walking into an invisible field of ionizing radiation that will strip electrons from the cells in your body, shredding DNA, destroying bone marrow, shutting down your ability to produce blood cells. The damage is done, and in a post-strike world, there is no cure. There are no ambulances. There are no beds. You are on your own. So you stay, you wait. You ration your water. You conserve your phone battery. You listen to a battery-powered radio if you have one. You do not consume food or water that was left exposed. You do not use conditioner if you shower because it binds radioactive particles to your hair. You remove outer layers of clothing if you were outside during the fallout, and you seal them in plastic bags away from your living space. These are not dramatic survival tactics. They are mechanical procedures that reduce exposure by orders of magnitude. By hour 3, the psychological collapse begins. The initial shock has worn off. Reality is setting in. You are trapped. You do not know if more strikes are coming. You do not know if your family is safe. You do not know if the government still exists. The cell networks are down. The internet is gone. The power grid has failed in most areas, either from electromagnetic pulse effects or deliberate shutdown to prevent cascading failures. The silence is worse than the blast. In the absence of information, your mind fills the void with worst-case scenarios. And across the city, across the country, millions of people are doing the same thing. Rumors spread faster than fallout. False reports of secondary strikes. Exaggerated casualty numbers. Claims that the water supply is poisoned. Social media, if it is still functional in pockets, becomes a vector for panic. This is where mental discipline becomes a survival skill. You do not react to unverified information. You do not make decisions based on fear. You follow the protocol. Stay inside, stay shielded. Wait for official guidance. But official guidance may not come. Emergency broadcast systems are designed for regional disasters, not national-level nuclear events. Communication infrastructure may be crippled. Military and government channels take priority. Civilian information is secondary, and in the vacuum people begin to move. Some flee toward rural areas, believing distance from cities equals safety. Some try to reunite with family members. Some simply cannot bear the isolation and step outside. Each of these decisions increases exposure. Each of these decisions shortens survival time. The streets are not empty. They are filled with people who did not understand the rules. And within hours they begin to show symptoms: skin reddening, nausea, confusion. They do not connect these symptoms to radiation. They assume it is stress or dehydration or shock. By the time they realize the truth, they have already received a lethal dose. By hour 6, the first wave of deaths begins, not from the blast, from exposure. People who lingered outside too long. People who tried to drive through contaminated zones. People who refused to believe the danger was real. The bodies are left where they fall. There is no one to collect them. Emergency responders are either dead, sheltering, or operating in zones deemed survivable. Triage is not based on injury severity. It is based on geography. If you are in a high fallout zone, you are written off. Resources are concentrated in areas where survival is possible. This is not cruelty. This is mathematics. And in those survivable zones, a new social order is forming. Those who prepared have water, food, and information. Those who did not are desperate. And desperation accelerates the collapse of civility. Looting begins. Not for luxury goods, but for essentials. Water, batteries, medicine. Stores are broken into. Homes are invaded. Violence erupts. The police are gone. The military is occupied with national defense. You are responsible for your own security. And if you are in a shelter without supplies, you are vulnerable. This is the part no one talks about. The part that does not fit into neat survival guides. The breakdown of trust. The realization that your neighbors are now competitors for limited resources. The knowledge that the rules you lived by no longer apply. Society is not a permanent structure. It is a thin layer of agreement held together by electricity, food distribution, and the assumption that tomorrow will resemble today. When those assumptions vanish, so does society. And in the first 24 hours, you watch it vanish in real time. You hear shouting in the streets. You hear gunfire. You hear sirens that stop mid-wail as emergency vehicles run out of fuel or drivers abandon their posts. You hear nothing, and the nothing is worse. By hour 12, darkness falls. Without streetlights, cities become voids. The sky may glow faintly from distant fires. Military aircraft may pass overhead, their engines the only sound cutting through the silence. You are huddled in your shelter with whatever light source you managed to preserve: a flashlight, a candle, the dim glow of a dying phone screen, and the fear peaks, not because the danger has increased, but because you cannot see it. Radiation does not glow. It does not announce itself. You do not know if the air around you is safe or saturated. You do not know if the walls you are hiding behind are thick enough. You do not know if you have already been exposed. And in the absence of certainty, your imagination fills in the worst possible answers. This is the night that breaks people. The night when isolation becomes unbearable. When the urge to leave, to do something, to take control, overwhelms rational thought. But radiation does not care about your psychological state. It decays on a fixed timeline. By hour 12, levels have dropped significantly. Not to safe levels, but to survivable ones if you remain shielded. The worst of the fallout has already settled. The gamma radiation is weakening. The immediate crisis is passing. But you do not know this. You only know that you are trapped in the dark, waiting for a dawn that may never feel normal again. By hour 18, exhaustion replaces fear. Your body is demanding rest. Your mind is shutting down non-essential processes. You sleep in shifts if you are with others. You do not sleep at all if you are alone. And in the early hours of the morning, the radio crackles to life. A voice, robotic, pre-recorded. It repeats the same message. Remain indoors. Do not consume unpackaged food or water. Await further instruction. The message loops. It provides no new information, no casualty counts, no explanation of what happened or why, but it confirms one thing. There is still a government. There is still a system. It is damaged, but it exists, and for some this is enough. For others it is confirmation that they are on their own. By hour 24, the first day ends. You have survived the blast. You have survived the fallout. You have survived the chaos, but survival is not a single event. It is a continuous process. Radiation levels are lower but still dangerous. Food supplies are dwindling. Water is precious. The psychological toll is mounting, and outside the world is fundamentally different. Infrastructure is destroyed. Supply chains are severed. Millions are dead or dying. Governments are operating in emergency mode. Martial law may be declared. Curfews, rationing, forced evacuations. The old rules are gone. The new rules are being written in real time. And you are living through the first chapter of a story no one wanted to read. If you followed the protocol, if you reacted without hesitation, if you got inside immediately and placed as much distance and dense material as possible between yourself and the outside world, your chances of surviving the first 24 hours are high. That first day is defined by discipline. It is defined by resisting panic, ignoring the instinct to run or search, and instead committing to shelter. Radiation levels are strongest in the early period after fallout begins to settle, and time becomes your greatest ally. Every hour that passes reduces intensity. Every layer of shielding concrete, earth, steel lowers exposure. If you minimized movement and stayed in the most protected interior space available, you shifted the odds in your favor. But the first 24 hours are not the end. They are the beginning. As radiation decays and fallout settles, the immediate invisible threat gradually weakens. Fires that once dominated the skyline burn themselves out. The air begins to clear. The silence after chaos can feel almost deceptive. Yet while the physical blast has passed, the structural damage to society is only beginning to reveal itself. The systems that once operated quietly in the background, power grids, water treatment facilities, transportation networks, digital communications, may be compromised or entirely offline. Supply chains that depended on constant coordination can collapse within days. Grocery stores empty quickly when deliveries stop. Fuel becomes scarce. Clean water may no longer be guaranteed if infrastructure is damaged or contaminated. Medical systems face overwhelming strain. Hospitals that survived structurally may lack power, equipment, or personnel. Essential medications become difficult to access. Emergency response networks operate under pressure, and not every call can be answered. In that environment, individuals and families must rely more heavily on their own preparation and judgment. The economy does not simply pause, it fractures. Markets depend on stability, logistics, and trust. When those pillars weaken, currency loses practical meaning. What matters most becomes access to essentials: food, water, shelter, reliable information. Trust, once broken, is slow to rebuild. In uncertain conditions, misinformation spreads quickly. Fear can amplify small disruptions into larger ones. Authorities may impose stricter controls in an effort to maintain order, limiting movement or rationing resources. Whether those measures are effective or not, daily life changes in ways that feel permanent. In the days and weeks that follow, the central question shifts. It is no longer whether you survive the blast. It is whether you can adapt to what comes after. Survival becomes less about shielding from radiation and more about managing scarcity, maintaining health, and preserving mental resilience. Routine becomes important. Rationing supplies carefully. Verifying information before acting. Avoiding unnecessary travel. Supporting those around you when possible. Communities that cooperate tend to endure hardship more effectively than individuals acting alone. You are standing in the remains of the old world, watching a new one take shape. It is harsher, less predictable. There is less margin for error. Yet even here, survival remains grounded in the same principle that carried you through the first day: discipline. The flash was terrifying. The shockwave was violent. But neither defines your long-term outcome. Your outcome is shaped by decisions turning away from the light, seeking immediate shelter, staying put for at least 24 hours, conserving food and water, monitoring official broadcasts rather than rumors, and minimizing exposure during the most dangerous period. These steps are not guarantees. No plan can promise certainty in a crisis of this scale, but they significantly improve probability. Every hour you survived allowed radiation to weaken. Every hour you remained sheltered reduced cumulative exposure. Time, paired with patience, became protection. In such events, survival is not about dramatic action. It is about restraint. It is about waiting when fear urges movement. It is about trusting measurable physical decay more than the anxiety rising in your chest. If you can maintain that discipline beyond the first day, if you can adapt, conserve, and think clearly, you move from surviving a moment to enduring a transformation, not with guarantees, not with comfort, but with possibility. And in a world reshaped by crisis, possibility is enough.